What's good, everybody? It's your boy Ty back at y'all with another video. Y'all hit that like button. Y'all comment, share, subscribe if you new. Now, today we're gonna be cooking on NBA Hall of Famer Carmelo Anthony. I think he was I think he got into the Hall of Fame. I think around September 6th, like 2-3 weeks ago. And a lot of people, don't talk too much about Carmelo Anthony's basketball career too much, partially because he didn't achieve much in the NBA as far as winning championships. But he was a multi-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist. He won the national championship at Syracuse, dominant in Syracuse, dominant in high school play as well. But a lot of people, once he got into the NBA, he had a couple of pitfalls. He had a couple of unlucky moments that could have basically turned his career around and made him be looked at in a different light that we're all going to hit on in this video. But Carmelo Anthony, man, I mean, in my opinion of Carmelo Anthony, a lot of people consider him a superstar. I never considered Carmelo Anthony being a superstar. He can't be the best player on a championship team. Poor lateral footwork defensively, wasn't a great defender, was an inconsistent rebounder, wasn't a great passer. He was good. He was a scoring machine. He was good at operating in the mid-range, dominant scorer. He was a great scorer, but he just couldn't do it. He just didn't have the intangibles. He was a very clutch performer, made clutch shots in the regular season, but it didn't translate too much into the playoffs. He was more so a first-round exit on top of a first-round exit. Now, he did have two moments where he had deep playoff runs, and one was when he was a Denver Nugget back in 2008 and 2009, if I'm not mistaken, with Chauncey Billups as his point guard. And he also had moments. He also had a year in 2013 that he got to the second round and played the Indiana Pacers. Unfortunately, he lost that series. But like I said, for the most part, Carmelo Anthony's career has been he pretty much had a lot of shortcomings. He pretty much came up short. He was pretty much known as a first-round exit, man. And he had an opportunity to team up with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and he chose the money in Denver instead of teaming up with those guys. Now, who says? I don't believe it would have worked, in my opinion, because you need to have those intangibles. Maybe Eric Spoelstra or Pat Riley could have brought it out of him, but he just never was looked at as that guy, in my opinion, to do the small things. He wasn't a great defender, baby. He would have been a better defender in Miami, because we always, go by that mantle of defense in Miami anyway. So maybe Miami would have been the best thing for Carmelo Anthony to do if he would have made that decision. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. Chris Bosh, who gets overlooked as he's a Hall of Famer in his own right, but I felt like Chris Bosh, we had got the right guy to do the small things, to sacrifice his game in more ways to become a better defender, a better rebounder, and things of that nature. So, I think Chris Bosh, I think he panned it out the way it was supposed to, in my opinion. But nonetheless, man, we're going to listen to this video. We're going to listen to what this brother has to say about Carmelo Anthony's career, and I'm going to chime in here and there.
Championship in college, 3 Olympic gold medals, and only 8 players scored more points than him. But with no success in the playoffs, many NBA fans still consider him a loser. Here is the rise and fall of Carmelo Anthony. Growing up in drug-infested Baltimore, Carmelo's childhood looked like a scene from The Wire, filled with criminals, guns, and narcotics. Looking for a safe place, Carmelo found his escape through basketball. He started his middle school career as a skinny point guard, which developed his ball handling skills and shooting touch. But after a major growth spurt, Anthony sprouted to 6'8", and in 2001 was named Baltimore Player of the Year. As a junior, he was averaging 23 points and 10 rebounds per game. But because he often skipped school and had terrible grades, Melo was forced to switch schools, and it turned out to be a blessing in disguise because
And that's interesting. That probably he was around bad influences, so he didn't have the best upbringing. He basically came from humble beginnings. So it was a blessing for this brother to even make it to the NBA due to some of the things that he's been through and was surrounded around as a young teen growing up.
To the famous Oak Hill Academy. With Melo on the team, Oak Hill became the most watched high school team in the U.S. When they matched up against LeBron James and his St. Vincent St. Mary, it felt like the NBA Finals. 11,000 spectators and 200 media members came to watch the showdown between the top junior and the best senior in the country. The game became a basketball classic, and both players lived up to the hype. LeBron dropped 36 points in 12 of 27 shooting, with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. Anthony put up 34 points on 14 of 25 shooting and 11 rebounds. Despite LeBron's brilliance, Carmelo's team pulled out a 72-66 victory.
Hold on. My bad for the interruption, y'all. Let's continue.
And finished the season with 32 wins and only 1 loss. After dominating the McDonald's All-American game and winning the Sprite Dunk Contest, Melo was wanted by every major college. He chose Syracuse University due to a great relationship with coach Jim Boeheim. Carmelo produced one of the best freshman seasons in NCAA history, averaging 22 points and 10 rebounds per game. Melo led Syracuse in scoring, rebounding, and minutes played, and his 33-point explosion against the University of Texas in the Final Four set an NCAA tournament record for most points by a freshman. In the NCAA Finals, Syracuse played against Kansas, who trashed Dwayne Wade's Marquette by 33 points in the semifinals. But Carmelo couldn't let that happen to him. He finished with 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists to lead the Orange to a sensational victory and NCAA championship.
See, and this is my thing with this. If Carmelo Anthony would have had better coaching, in my opinion, that he respected, if he would have had a coach that he respected, maybe he would have had a opportunity to win championships. He would have had a better opportunity to win a title. But, you know, it was points and times where Carmelo Anthony was very uncoachable and he had a big ego.
Even though he planned to stay 3 years in college, Melo already climbed to the top of the mountain, and his beloved coach, Jim Boeheim, advised him to go to the NBA. The entire world expected the Cavs to select LeBron with the first pick of the 2003 NBA draft and Detroit to pick Carmelo at number 2. And then, a huge surprise. The Pistons opted for European prospect Darko Milicic, which meant
This was a dumb move, because Carmelo Anthony would have got drafted to the Detroit Pistons. This was in 2003. The Carmelo Anthony would have a championship if he would have got drafted to that Pistons team, because I think that Pistons team still had Chauncey Billups as well. And following that 2004 season, they did have Chauncey Billups. In that 2004 season, they had beat the Lakers, and they beat the Lakers 4-1. You know, the championship that a lot of people tend to forget about Kobe Bryant, that he pretty much played horrific in. That was the series that people don't tend to remember when it comes to Kobe Bryant. But this is not a Kobe Bryant video. Carmelo Anthony, if he would have got drafted there as a Piston, the Detroit Pistons, he would have won a championship as a Detroit Piston, no doubt about it. Maybe 2 or 3 championships, and we'd be looking at Carmelo Anthony in a different light. So this was a bad mistake by the Pistons for drafting the European guy.
Anthony would be selected 3rd overall by the Denver Nuggets. Even as a rookie, there was no way to stop Carmelo Anthony. Against Wade and LeBron, a defender could step back and let them take an outside shot. But against Carmelo, it was a point of no return. The man had every possible tool in his offensive arsenal, and he'd score no matter what the defense does. If you put a bigger guy on him, Melo was so explosive that he would drive by him. If you put a smaller defender, he'd post him up and bully him on the way to the basket, or simply make a silky smooth mid-range jumper. Anthony led the Nuggets with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, and became the 4th player in NBA history to capture all 6 of the Rookie of the Month awards in a season. However, LeBron was also a Rookie of the Month 6 times in the East and was voted Rookie of the Year over Anthony, despite the Cavs not making the postseason and James posting slightly lesser numbers. Denver won 17 games in the season before Melo.
And you can make an argument Carmelo Anthony could have won Rookie of the Year as well.
With him, they won 43 games and made the playoffs, their first postseason berth in 9 years. Melo's first playoff series didn't go great. He struggled mightily against MVP Kevin Garnett, and the Timberwolves won 4-1. Despite the loss, the hype around Carmelo was bigger than ever. He was selected to represent Team USA at the 2004 Olympics, where he got into his first big fight with a coach, something that would later become a far too regular occurrence. Larry Brown played Sean Marion and Richard Jefferson instead of Melo and LeBron, and Anthony openly protested due to a lack of playing time. Brown then torpedoed Carmelo to the end of the bench, and the Americans failed to win Olympic gold for the first time ever with.
And that was red flag number one. And albeit I know they didn't win the Olympic gold medal, but that would just let you know about how much big of a egotistic maniac Carmelo Anthony was. Considering the fact that those guys that were playing above him, those guys were in the league before them. So of course they were going to play the veterans who was there longer than you were just a cat that was pretty much just starting off. So you wasn't going to torpedo those guys and jump those guys. Now, could you make an argument that Carmelo Anthony and LeBron James should have played more? Absolutely. But that's not how it works when it comes to Team USA basketball.
NBA players. When the next season started, Anthony argued with his Nuggets coach, who then got replaced by George Karl. In the beginning, everything was wonderful, and Carmelo did his job as a scorer perfectly. Even though he was never interested in playing defense, he directly brought victories to the Nuggets 5 times, with clutch buckets in the last seconds. All of his 5 game winners were jump shots. The Nuggets made the playoffs again, but immediately lost to the later champions San Antonio Spurs. Then, in 2006, Melo's scoring average soared to 26.5 points per game. But the result was the same, and the Nuggets lost in the first round of the playoffs once more. In the first 8 games of the following season, Melo went over 30 points 6 times. But then, another huge disappointment. In December of 2006, when the Nuggets played the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, one of the biggest player fights in NBA history ensued. Almost every player from both teams was involved in the brawl. And after Anthony slapped Marty Collins, he earned a 15-game suspension. He then started hanging out with the newly acquired J.R. Smith more intensively, and Carmelo's focus quickly shifted from basketball to partying. And on February 2nd, 2007, all that partying almost cost Carmelo and J.R. their lives, when after one wild night out, Melo and J.R. were involved in a car accident. But even after their life flashing before their eyes, nothing changed. Then, the arrival of Allen Iverson was definitely not an injection of professionalism for the team, and soon enough, there were videos of drunk Nuggets in front of the nightclub. Even though they had a decent team on paper, Denver...
That's terrible. And then adding AI to the mix, man, didn't help, man. Who was known as a thug and a degenerate around the NBA as well around that time period.
Simply did not have the chemistry or maturity for a serious result. Anthony averaged 29 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists that year, and he finally made the All-Star team. But the Nuggets lost to the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs again. 2008 was a different year, but the story was the same. Melo and Iverson averaged over 25 points each, but the Nuggets lost in the first round for the 5th year in a row, this time getting swept by the Lakers. Anthony then suited up for Team USA at the 2008 Beijing Olympics.
And albeit, like I said, I know AI was a little older then, but that goes to show you how overrated he was as well, because AI played point guard, right? Shooting guard, whatever the case may be. If he was that great, why he didn't elevate Carmelo Anthony's game and they didn't win a title? Since everybody want to, talk about Allen Iverson like he just like he one of the greatest players of all time. I mean, AI is a great player, but he's very overrated.
And finally washed the sour taste of defeat from his life. Melo impressed with his outside shooting during the tournament, and the Americans finally brought the gold medal home. With the Olympic success and being around Kobe and LeBron, we saw a more mature Melo. Trading Iverson away and bringing veteran point guard Chauncey Billups also helped, and Anthony played the best basketball of his life. The Nuggets won 54 games in a season, which was their best result in 20 years, and Melo sacrificed shots for the better of the team. Then in the playoffs,
he didn't. No. He got a point guard, who he got a point guard in a Hall of Famer in Chauncey Billups, that was a team first guy that won a championship that got all those guys involved, including Carmelo Anthony, and he and his shot selections went down because he was getting better and efficient ones and proficient ones.
The Nuggets finally advanced past the first round, defeating the Hornets 4-1. In the second round, Carmelo played the best playoff series of his life. He averaged 30 points with phenomenal shooting numbers, and Denver defeated Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks in 5 games. Against Kobe and the Lakers in the conference finals, the Nuggets tied the series at 2-2 before returning to Los Angeles. But in the rest of the series, Denver wasn't up to the task, and the Lakers advanced to the finals. Despite the loss, it was the best season in recent Nuggets history. Carmelo was entering his prime, and Denver fans were expecting a berth to the NBA.
Yeah, and also he had a point guard. Because keep in mind, I said earlier in this video that he had a point guard that he played with, legitimate point guards in Chauncey Billups in Denver and Jason Kidd back in 2013 with the New York Knicks. Those were the only times Carmelo Anthony had great success and were considered for league MVPs and making deep playoff runs when he had a legitimate point guard. So if Carmelo Anthony don't have a he never had too much of a legitimate point guard in his career. And if he had that, Carmelo Anthony we'll be looking at his basketball career in a different light.
Finals soon. Unfortunately, the only thing they got was a bitter disappointment. In 2010, despite Carmelo averaging 30 points in the series, the Nuggets lost in the first round again. Throughout the entire 2010 and 2011 season, Carmelo had conflicts with Coach Carl. He was even suspended once because he refused to leave the game when the coach asked him to. So Carmelo decided to ask for a trade. The disbelief of Denver fans soon turned into open hatred. Anthony did not want a contract extension. He wanted to go to his choice, more precisely, the New York Knicks. After months of public fights and bickering in the media that was dubbed the melodrama, the Nuggets realized it was best to trade Carmelo than lose him for nothing 3 months later, like the Cavs lost LeBron the year before. They traded Anthony to New York in a multi-team trade, and the Knicks lost a lot.
And that was stupid because he was coming there anyway, but the New York Knicks panicked because Carmelo Anthony threatened to sign with the Brooklyn Nets. But I just don't get it. It was just a dumb move, in my opinion, for the Knicks to get him, to trade for him, because he was coming there anyway. Carmelo Anthony wasn't going to no damn Brooklyn Nets. He basically just pulled the New York Knicks' arm to trade him when he wanted to be traded. And that was red flag number one, because you don't mess up your team's chemistry and mess up acquisitions and players to get a guy that was going to come there anyway. And if he would have went to Brooklyn, shit, let his ass walk to Brooklyn.
Out of depth for a player that could have signed for free if they waited just half a season.
Thank you,
but
sir.
They wanted Melo now, and he wanted them. Too bad their gamble didn't pay off. Even though he played with the best teammate of his life in Amari Stoudemire, the Knicks got swept in the first round of the 2011 playoffs. One of the main reasons for the lack
because they ain't had no point guard
of success was the inability of Melo and Stoudemire to work together. Even though Anthony always insisted on playing the small forward position because he did not want to scrap and wrestle with taller and stronger players in the post, his ideal role was that of the stretch four. He was at his best when he scored from isolation in the high post, spreading out the defense with outside shots, driving by slower defenders, and making lots of mid-range shots. His offensive play, while outdated by today's standards, was damn effective. However, due to his stubbornness to play small forward, he was never a great defensive player. Melo was always...
And he's been stubborn. He was stubborn pretty much his whole career, and that's one of the main reasons why he never won.
Is a bit too slow laterally to guard the best small forwards effectively, and extremely unmotivated to play top-notch defense for more than a few possessions. That wouldn't be such a big problem if Amari wasn't almost the same player as Melo. They like to occupy the same real estate on offense and were equally bad defensively, which showed in the results. The Knicks regularly played better when one of them was not in the lineup. It didn't take much for Anthony to start beefing with Coach D'Antoni and complain about the tactics. To keep their superstar happy, the Knicks fired D'Antoni. Mike Woodstock took his place, and the team...
Yeah, that goes to show you, Carmelo Anthony had no accountability and no self-awareness, man, as a basketball player. It just showed getting into it with coaches, drinking and smoking, and getting in the car wrecks with Just Retarded Smith, J.R. Smith. I mean, he just showed a lack of no awareness and no accountability at all.
Started playing better. Lynn's sanity was in full effect. Tyson Chandler got voted Defensive Player of the Year, and the chemistry improved. But the Knicks lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Heat, partially because Amari punched through the glass of a fire extinguisher after a Game 2 loss, which resulted in him playing...
No, sir. They was going to lose that series anyway. Miami Heat, they obviously went on to win the championship that year, and the Knicks were an 8th seed. They was not going to win that championship. They was not going to sniff nowhere near a championship, nor beat LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh in the first round. It wasn't going to happen. But yeah, man, Carmelo Anthony, man, he had no awareness, no accountability. Yeah, a lot of people talk about LeBron James being coach killers. This dude was a coach killer. I mean, 4 or 5 different head coaches, man. I mean, he was just crazy.
With a cast on his hand for the rest of the series. Then came the summer, and the wounds healed again. The Olympics in London promoted Anthony, along with Durant, as an American player who is best suited for international competitions. Melo shot like he was hypnotized, and his 37 points in 15 minutes against Nigeria was a true masterpiece. Team USA won another gold, and just like that, he blossomed again. And the 2013 post-Olympic NBA season brought peak Carmelo. The addition of Jason Kidd stabilized the flow of the Knicks offense, and Carmelo thrived as a finisher.
Did y'all hear that? The acquisition of who? J. Kidd. And this is when he had this was the season where LeBron James got robbed of unanimous MVP because some idiot voted for Carmelo Anthony as a league MVP candidate. When we all know that LeBron James should have been the first unanimous MVP. You know, unfortunately for him, it didn't happen. But, you know, this was one of Carmelo Anthony's best seasons, man, as a New York Knick back in 2013 when they had Jason Kidd and Mike Woodson as the head coach.
Playing the ball half as much as he used to. Anthony replaced a lot of long twos with threes and averaged 28.7 points per game, which brought him an NBA scoring title. He played the most efficient basketball of his career, and the Knicks won 54 games, their best result since 1997. Even without Amari Stoudemire, who went down with a knee injury, Melo led the Knicks to a playoff series win, defeating the aging Celtics in the first round.
We're going to stop this right here. A lot of people don't talk about this series either, man, that the New York Knicks gave up a 3-1 lead a 3-0 lead to these